Hello and welcome back to Big Nostalgia, the podcast where we look at games from our childhood, where they come from, the story of their development, and the story within the game itself. We then talk about the audio, the visual design, and if we like it, does it hold up? We also discuss the game's legacy. Is it well remembered? Did it spawn a million sequels, or is it an obscure title that we hear little about nowadays? I'm Vicky.
I'm Phil.
And to continue from last week, we have another iconic Game Boy launch title, starring Mr. Nintendo himself. It's Supermarioland.
With exploding turtle shells and a brand new princess, this was a bit of a convention breaker, even as Mario's rules were still being written. So, let's head to Sarasaland. Last week we talked about Tetris, and if you haven't listened to that, you should, as Tetris has a really interesting development history. Part of it was that a man called Henk Rogers convinced Nintendo to make Tetris the pack-in game with the Game Boy, instead of Supermarioland. He said that Supermarioland will attract kids, but Tetris would attract everybody. He was right on that one, but Supermarioland was still a launch title, and Mario's first major title on handheld. It was released on the 21st of April 1989 in Japan, the 31st of July 1989 in North America, the 28th of September 1990 in the EU, and the 21st of November 1990 in Australia. Basically, it was released on the same day as the Game Boy in each of those regions. Now, if you know Supermarioland, you might think it's a bit of a weird Mario game. It was released between Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World, and those are considered two of the most iconic Mario games. And yet, it's really different to both. There is a reason for this. Most mainline Mario games to date have been developed by a part of Nintendo called Nintendo EAD, which is Nintendo Entertainment Analysis Development, I want to say.
Yeah, the same that one that did Link's Awakening.
Yes. But at the time, it was referred to as Nintendo R&D 4, so the fourth R&D group within Nintendo. However, Super Mario Land was handed to a different team in Nintendo R&D 1, so it was being created by people who didn't necessarily know Mario and what a Mario game was supposed to be. It's because the team working on it as a game was basically working on it because it was to support the Game Boy, and R&D 1 were developing the Game Boy hardware as well. Mm-hmm. It was decided that the system needs a Mario game to be popular.
Yeah.
So it makes sense in that regard. It was originally envisioned that Super Mario Land would come with the title, but as we said, in the actual release, they went with Tetris instead. So I said earlier that this was Mario's first major handheld title, because what I didn't know before I started doing this research is that actually there'd been handheld Mario Game & Watch games. So if you remember the Game & Watch were like those LED, very simple, like one system was one game, and had featured Mario in games such as a simplistic Super Mario Bros. Game, which was recreated for Game & Watch. So it was very basic.
Yeah.
In essence. So this game, Super Mario Land, was directed by Satoru Okada, whose credits to that point had been creating the Game & Watch systems themselves. He had also taken a part in developing games such as Metroid, Kid Icarus, Famicom Wars, which is the precursor to Advance Wars, and Wrecking Crew. So, not Mario games, although in that last one you do play as Mario. It was produced by Gunpei Yokoi, a big Nintendo name who had worked in the organisation since 1965, on various ideas including the Love Tester machine that they once made. But for today, the important thing is that he designed the Game Boy as part of Nintendo R&D 1, so he was really coming at it as the producer of the Game Boy, producing a Game Boy launch title, rather than as a Mario alum.
Yeah.
I should also mention that among his hardware successors was the NES Zapper gun, like Duck Hunt.
Yeah.
He also designed Rob the Robot.
Yeah.
And he also apparently is credited as creating the D-pad as like a concept.
Really? Oh,
because
cool.
Remember the old arcade games had joysticks.
Ancient, yeah. Yeah. Well, if he's been in the game since 1965, that makes sense.
Yeah. So he is responsible for a lot of their hardware successes. So, we have two big hitters at Nintendo, but neither of them are Mario experts. The creator of Mario, Shigeru Miyamoto, was not actually involved at all, as he was busy working on games for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, including Super Mario World.
I find this interesting because we haven't covered it yet, but later down in this series, we'll be covering Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
Please check it out, like all our lovely episodes within this series. But yeah, obviously I'm doing the research for that, so I find it very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think Miyamoto's focus had to be on the Super Nintendo, so the Game Boy, he wasn't as involved with some of the games.
It
So,
feels like he does that a lot. I feel like that might be quite a common theme for quite a lot of famous people when they get to a certain stage, like Tim Burton's In a Nightmare Before Christmas.
yeah. However, Yokoi did consult Miyamoto, and the two did know each other from working together in the past, so it wasn't like a complete unknown. Like, I think Miyamoto had given his blessing. The Game Boy itself can actually only display 4 colours, so when they were converting Mario to the system, they had to kind of shrink down his style and simplify the style for the new system. And this team took like their own unique approach, which is what we'll kind of talk about in the game today. As for plot, the game's story is similar to classic Mario. We're saving a princess and defeating a bad guy. But it's a different princess and a different bad guy, which brings us into characters. So, the game is significant as the introduction of Princess Daisy as the Sarasaland princess, which is where the game takes place. You are Mario, of course, and you need to rescue Daisy from the big boss, who is not Bowser, but Tatanga, an alien. When you defeat Tatanga, Mario and Daisy ride off into the sunset in a UFO, as was the style at the time. So Tatanga is a bit of a unique boss, because he appears as the final boss here, then he's demoted to the boss of a world in Super Mario Land 2, and then he never appears again.
Wow. You lose once, you lose twice, and you're out.
Yeah, that's it. 2 strikes and you're out. It's not even baseball.
Yeah. It's not even Nintendo's normal rule of 3.
Yeah. The other bosses that you face, because this game's a bit unique because you have a different boss in each world, unlike kind of Mario Bros, where it's Bowser at the end of each one, or Mario 3, where it's like a different Koopaling. In this one, you've got King Totomezu, who kind of looks like a sphinx. You've got Dragon Zamasu, that kind of looks like a fire-breathing dragon seahorse. That's the best I can describe.
Yeah.
Hiohoi, kind of looks like the Easter Island statues. And Biokinton, which looks like a cloud.
Feels like by the last one they were just like, what else should we do? I don't know. Looks outside the window. How about a cloud?
Well, they tie into kind of the themes for the worlds, which we'll get to later. But it's interesting that they did design so many new things for this, like because the game is often considered a bizarro Mario world. You can kind of the enemies and like the bosses is like you can see why, because you have Goombo, not Goomba. You've got Koopas where their shells explode rather than bounce because they couldn't program that into the game.
It's tomato. It's not tomato.
Well, you got flies as enemies. You got bullet biffs.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Feels like they've got all the licensing rights, but it feels like they don't.
It's like the off-brand versions, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's also an enemy that is simply called Chicken, but it looks like a parrot. So I don't know what happened there.
Okay.
In terms of like its design, obviously it's one of the first Game Boy games, and it looks like one of the first Game Boy games. Like it's very simple. It looks very similar to the original Super Mario Bros. Whereas when you compare it to Mario Land 2, like the visuals that they could do, the system had just progressed immensely in that short time. They had to replace the 1-up mushroom with a heart because both the 1-up mushroom and the mushroom are mushrooms, and you've only got 4 colours, you can't have 2 mushroom items because you can't make them different.
Yeah.
So instead, Mario gets hearts as 1-ups, but he's still a regular mushroom, is still a mushroom. There is only one single power-up in this game called the Super Ball, which is like a fire flower, but the balls bounce off all the walls, like the DVD logo.
Nice.
Unlike the fire flower, the bouncing balls can collect coins.
That's cool.
And also new to this game is Mario has levels which are auto-scrollers where he is in a plane and in a submarine, called the Sky Pop and the Marine Pop respectively. Even the final level takes place in the plane against a Tanga. So apparently this actually comes from an idea that Miyamoto wanted to do in the original NES Super Mario Bros., but he scrapped it because he couldn't get it to work as he wanted. But it's interesting because none of the Mario games have revisited the idea of like Mario in a vehicle sense. So therefore this seems like odd when actually it's from the original vision.
You'd think now that they managed to do it in this game, why they didn't want to explore it more. Maybe they just weren't satisfied with the way that it turned out in this game.
Yeah, because it's not even like they do it in Mario Land 2. Mario Land 2, if anything, is much more traditional to the Mario style. There's just more power-ups. Like, Mario gets shrunk. But, like, there's no vehicles, as I recall.
No.
So the game takes place, as I've said a few times, in Sarasaland rather than the Mushroom Kingdom. And it's split into 4 worlds, which actually have names, which, again, was a bit different to Mario up to then. So World 1 is called Birabuto Kingdom. World 2 is called the Muda Kingdom. World 3 is called the Eastern Kingdom. World 4 is called the Chai Kingdom. And each world is made of 3 levels. So each world has a different theme. So Birabuto is a desert world based on ancient Egypt, where you battle the Sphinx boss. And actually, in United States Super Mario Land commercial, they made an error describing the Birabuto Kingdom as just ancient Egypt.
Oops.
Yeah, well, it happened in kind of like the localizations back then, didn't it? And like the marketers who didn't really understand the games they were selling.
Yeah.
Muda is a water world based on legends related to the Bermuda Triangle, which is why there are spaceships in the sky and in the water throughout the world.
That's pretty cool.
Eastern is based on Rapa Nui, or Easter Island as it is more commonly known, the island off of Chile, with stone heads resembling the moai that you find there.
Hence the bad guy, the big boss, being the stone head.
And then Chai is based on ancient China with a bamboo forest and a mountain range. And the music is also very Chinese inspired as well.
I'm surprised the big bad wasn't a panda.
Well, because pandas sleep most of the time, don't they? So yeah, it's a bit different from grass, desert, snow, forest, mountain, fire, isn't it?
Yeah, stepping outside of that very traditional sort of box. I mean, you do get desert worlds, but you don't get China or the island sort of worlds.
So, as well, each level has 2 exits, where if you get the top exit, you get to go to a bonus game. Super Mario Land also has a hard mode, which you unlock when you beat it the first time, where every level has more enemies. And then once you beat hard mode, you unlock stage select, so you can just go to any world you want.
Oh, nice.
The music was composed by Hirokazu Tanaka, who we've spoken about and who we will speak about in other episodes this season. A composer who's done music for a lot of franchises, such as Pokemon and Super Smash Bros. The soundtrack shows off the full range of capabilities of the Game Boy hardware, and as a result has a lot of unique tracks in the Mario series. Although, the strange thing from the soundtrack is that the Superstar theme from this game is 2 loops taken from Gallop Infernal from Orpheus in the Underworld by Jack Offenbach.
Really?
If you're not sure why that's strange, this melody is most commonly known for being the can-can music.
Yeah. That's random.
Yeah. So it's Yeah. Very, very strange when, like, there's quite a distinct, unique, like, superstar theme that's been used up till then to use something that's actually well known for something else. So, on to quirks. There was a full fan homebrew remake on the Super Nintendo using graphics from the new Super Mario Bros. Games, and they called it New Super Mario Land. It was released in 2019, it supported 4-player co-op, and had enhanced graphics and music. And it ran natively on the Super Nintendo, which I think is quite impressive because, like, obviously that's... When you think of the new Super Mario Bros., look, that's, like, more 3D-ish, but I suppose it's still... They are still sprites that you could render in 2D.
Yeah.
But still, it was kind of released, and then the creator just disappeared. And that was it.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a very strange story. I only had to find a little bit about it, but it seems like he released it. He sent a few, like, key places, like actual SNES carts with it on.
Yeah.
And then he just like disappeared.
No.
He said his work was done. Fair enough.
Just like the... Yeah. Certain people, they're just like, no, this is my dream, this is my goal. When I do it, it's just done.
So, the box art for Super Mario Land promises Koopa Troopers in the game, and so does the 3DS eShop description. But technically only Bombshell Troopers appear, which is like the special name they gave to the exploding ones.
Liars.
They also mention giant crabs. Both, and there are no giant crabs in the game, it's just a mistake that keeps getting carried on. For the second episode in a row, obviously with last week's Tetris, the game we are discussing inspired a UK artist to make a song. In this case, it was a song just called Supermarioland, all one word, by the group Ambassadors of Funk. It was actually promoted by Nintendo UK, and it managed to peak at number 8 on the UK music charts.
Of course it did. Bloody hell.
So, here's a quick quiz for you.
Yep.
We had a Tetris song. We had a Super Mario Land song. 2 other icons of gaming also had music tracks about them around this time. Who do you think they were? I'll give you a clue. One is primarily an arcade game, and one was a console game, but not Nintendo.
Okay, arcade game. Pac-Man?
Yep.
And then a console game that's not Nintendo. Is it still like, for the console it's part of, is it still quite a well-known one?
Yeah, definitely.
So if you're thinking PlayStation, I think it's too early for stuff like Assassin's Creed. Sonic?
Yep.
Yeah, that's not PlayStation either, that's Sony, but yeah.
It's Sega.
Sega. Damn it.
Yeah. So apparently we just, in the UK music scene, we were just looking for songs based on Game Boy and other gaming games.
Basically in England we're just a bunch of nerds having fun in the 90s.
And we still are.
And we still are.
Super Mario Land ended up getting its own manga adaptation.
Yes.
And in addition, it also spawned a comic called Game Boy, where a disgruntled game store employee brings Tatanga into the real world, and Mario has to enter the real world to stop him.
Oh, God. Okay.
And Super Mario Land has also had a spin-off board game in Germany, where you play around like the 4 kingdoms. So I beat the game.
Nice. That'd be fun.
Yeah, so other regions have had cooler spin-off stuff than us, basically. We have the music, but they have the board games. I don't know. Are we winning?
Don't know. Be cool to get the board game.
Yeah. Now on to legacy. Super Mario Land has had a very interesting legacy. First, it had a sequel in the form of Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, which introduced Wario into the gaming consciousness for the first time, because he was the final boss. Basically, the plot of that game is whilst Mario is in Sarasaland saving Daisy, Wario goes to Mario's house and just steals it. Like, he just lives in Mario... He just squats, basically.
Yeah.
And he has to find the 6 golden coins to get into his house, which is a castle.
Obviously.
And defeat Wario and take it back.
That does sound like a very Wario move.
It does. And actually, the more Wario move is the fact that he then stole the entire franchise from Mario, because after that is Super Mario Land 3, which is called Wario Land.
Exactly. I mean, he already stole Mario's name by just turning the M into a W.
Well, yeah, basically. Well, we're going to talk a bit more about Wario when we do Wario Land 2. But it's weird to think that technically Wario Land 2, which, as we'll discuss, is really different, is technically a sequel to this game. Like, it's difficult to see the through line sometimes, like, between them.
Yeah.
So, a lot of concepts from Super Mario Land are unique to this game, such as some of the bosses and enemies that we've spoken about. And that can either make this game really great and unique, or weird and different. So these concepts have kind of come back over the years. So the Sky Pop was in Super Mario Maker as a costume, because if you remember, like, the first Mario Maker on the Wii U had the, like, all those weird costumes that you could unlock, either with the amiibo or, like, through gameplay. So yeah, you could do the Sky Pop as one of those. But perhaps, like, more notably, the Super Ball was included in Super Mario Maker 2 as an item in the Super Mario Bros. Theme.
Nice.
So, music from Mario Land has appeared throughout the later games, such as in the Super Smash Bros. Series. And actually, most recently, some of the tracks returned in Mario Kart World on Switch 2, which has just a lot of tracks from all across the series.
Yeah.
In terms of legacy, I mean, one of the big bits of legacy is Daisy.
Yeah.
Who would then go on to be a mainstay in the Mario cast. So her actual next appearance was as Luigi's caddy in NES Open Tournament Golf, because Peach was like Mario's caddy.
Yeah.
But then she made her proper premiere as a playable character in Mario Tennis on the Nintendo 64.
It's nice that they kept her, because she is quite an iconic character now. If you think about, like, main sort of characters, she's obviously there for Luigi, but I didn't know that was the game that she was first in. I didn't know that's where she was from.
Yeah. Because, like, it seems like one of those situations with, like, Waluigi where she was just created as, like, a doubles partner. But actually, no, she's been in games before already.
Yeah.
And actually, she appears in, obviously, all the Mario spin-offs now. Her first playable kind of, like, 2D Mario game was actually the mobile game Super Mario Run, where she was an unlockable character. But then, more recently, she's finally had her first kind of main series 2D Mario playable appearance in Super Mario Wonder on the Switch.
Really?
Which is the first time you can, on a console Mario game, like, you know, the main series, where you can play as Daisy.
That is very cool. At the point of this recording, I have not played Wonder. So yeah, that is very cool.
Wonder's fun, yeah. And it's got like 10 playable characters, which I don't know why they haven't been doing this entire time. I mean,
yeah.
I say 10, half them are Yoshis.
But I've heard good things about Wonder. It's on my to get list.
Yeah. And yeah, Super Mario Land was a commercial and critical success, selling 18.1 million units, making it the fourth best-selling Game Boy game, just behind Tetris and the first two Pokemon gens. It even outsold Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES as well, which is quite something, because you can... Nowadays, you consider Mario Bros. 3 to be the more iconic title, but at the time, obviously, because it was a launch title, it sold that many more just because people bought it with the console.
Yeah. That's impressive.
The original Super Mario Bros. Of course, sold way more, because it was a launch title for the original NES. So Super Mario Bros., the original, has sold more than 40 million copies. But it only was slightly outsold by Super Mario World, which was the launch title for the Super Nintendo, because it sold 20 million, which is not really, you know, in the grand scheme, that's not that many more.
No, it's not too bad.
It outsold Mario 64 as well, which was the launch title for the Nintendo 64.
So it did really well.
Yeah. I mean, reviews at the time were really positive, saying it was kind of like really fun, replayable. It takes like less than an hour to beat. So one of the criticisms was like its difficulty.
It wasn't criticised too much for not being a traditional Mario game, though, was it? For your research, like the fact that it didn't have Peach and it didn't have the normal setup.
Yeah, it was different. Like, and it's
and people were happy with that.
Like other games we'll talk about this season, it lacks the mainstays. Like, yeah, like you said, there's no Peach, no Luigi, no Toads.
Well, we'll go into it more within the season, but so far, it just seems like when they do step away from those normal Nintendo sort of setups, the fans don't seem to have a big problem with it. They don't seem to be like, oh my goodness, my Mario did not include a peach. Grrr, shake that stick. Like, they're like, okay, they're trying something new. Let's see this.
Yeah. Well, I think
nice.
it's just, yeah, back then it was like so also new. I think maybe they had more freedom to operate, whereas there's a lot of conventions now as to what a game of a certain franchise should look like, and sometimes that can be a bit restrictive.
Isn't it just? Yeah.
Obviously, as a result, more modern reviews of Super Mario Land have been maybe a bit more critical, maybe because, like, obviously they've had the latest stuff to compare it to. So yeah, some people think it's aged really well, because obviously it's still one of the first Game Boy games. Other people don't think it's aged so well, because like Super Mario Land 2 just has so many more power-ups, so many more other things to it. So Vicky, yeah, do you think Mario Land has aged well or not?
I think it's aged well. I like the fact that it's so different from all the other Mario games. I like the fact that it tried something different, like different worlds, different baddies. It wasn't Bowser, different princesses. I thought it was really cool that Daisy wasn't just made as a doubles partner. She actually did have her own little cameo in a game before she became Luigi's missus. But it's not one of the ones that come to mind when I think of a Mario game for me. It just doesn't. Like, if I think, oh, I'm going to sit down and play a Mario game, it's not one of the ones I'd sit down and be like, oh, I'm going to play this.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think you make a good point there. It's like, it's possible to note it as iconic, but also like, it's sandwiched between what I think are two just far more, just because they're on home consoles, not on handheld. It's sandwiched between Mario 3 and Mario World, which you could make arguments for either of those being just the best 2D Mario game of all time.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. And then its sequel obviously introduces a lot more of the elements you've come to expect by that point, which is more power-ups, more, like more fleshed out graphics, like more complicated sound design, although I still think the soundtrack of this game is iconic.
Yeah.
I think it's got some great tracks.
For a Mario game, the music is very iconic if you consider how samey some Mario game music can be.
Yeah. But I'm not sure, yeah. So, I do like Super Mario Land, but yeah, I think in my ranking of Mario games, I can't say it'd be all that high. But, I still appreciate its contribution to the Mario series. And that brings us to the end of our second episode of Big Nostalgia Season 4. So, let us know what you thought of the game in the comments. Do you think Mario Land is goated, or is it the black sheep of the series? Let us know.
Next time, Nick will be back to take me and Phil through the beginning of an international phenomenon. Join us next week for our Big Nostalgia episode on Pokemon's first generation of games with Red, Blue and Yellow. I've been Vicky.
I've been Phil. Thank you very much for listening.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Next time, Nick will be back to take Vicky and I. Oh yeah, no, I'm Vicky. I'm Vicky.